The person next up is an internationally recognized Indian national security intelligence expert, an author of 3 books and regular columnist in various national and international publications. Let's welcome the one whose expertise see him invited to speak regularly at various international national fora on security and strategic geopolitical affairs. IPS, ex-Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, Honorable Shri V. Balachandran, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I tried my level best to start a think tank, a security think tank in Mumbai. I couldn't succeed. I couldn't enthuse the commercial companies to lend money to start a think tank. So we have our fins there. That is a wonderful example of community efforts of light-thinking people. And they have done extremely good work. I had participated in the FINS seminars. And now Dr. Page, I hope he brings in a fresh energy into the thinking of security studies in Mumbai. You may perhaps know that New York was a pioneer in establishing the Council on Foreign Relations. It's one of the best think tanks in the world. So when I approached in 1995, our corporate friends, they said, look, if you are discussing only business, we will be able to give money, but not for security. But that's not the case with others. In New York, for example, every prime minister, visiting prime minister going to US, considers as an honor to address the Council on Foreign Relations. I want that to happen. Now it's 2021, and I'm 84. So I hope at least the next 10 years, one of these think tanks will rise to that position in which even foreign VIPs coming to Mumbai would address them. So that's my ambition, and I congratulate Professor Page. Talking about 2611, I remember very fondly my chairman, Mr. Brahma. It was wonderful to work with him. I had, of course, Maharashtra State. I belonged to Maharashtra State Indian Police Service. I went to RAW in 1976. So I had briefly worked under him, very briefly, as when he was Home Secretary. He's a wonderful manager, a wonderful leader. And he gave me directions. In fact, most of the report was written by me in my house. But how to go about and focus, that man had a wonderful sense of prioritize certain things. First of all, he didn't consult the Chief Minister or anybody. He said that this commission or committee would be only a departmental committee to examine the systemic mistakes of Mumbai police. How? Because at that time the headlines were 10 terrorists hold 45,000 men to ransom. How did it happen? And we lost all our reputation. I remember I used to know Professor Lutwak, one of the best brains in the world, a deep lover of India, writing a scathing article about India, that 10 terrorists could not be controlled by 45,000 policemen. That was our reputation. So Mr. Pradhan didn't want to waste energy of this committee to go into as a public hearing. They said, we will only examine the police officers and others and Mantralaya people who are involved in controlling or facing the terror attack. And the government had given us only 2 months to report because there was a furor in the assembly. And it's because of that they appointed within 2 months. And then when we found that we could not even get an office accommodation for nearly a month, we asked for extension and we finished our work by day-to-day hearings. And my friend Shivanandan had appeared. He had given very valuable inputs, and so were many officers, including Chief Secretary, Home Secretary, and others. So we could complete our work within the stipulated time, but then the general elections came, and then we could not submit our report. Finally, we submitted a report only in April. Now, I want to go back into that, how relevant was 2611. Yesterday and today, I had delivered online through Microsoft Teams 2 lectures to one of the biggest hotel groups in the world. They are still interested in 2611. I said, look, after so many years, 13 years, you are still interested in 2611. No, Mr. Balachandran, it is one of the most important terror attacks in the annals of terrorism, the history of terrorism. I will tell you exactly what they told me and what, of course, I have also read. Because when 26/11 took place, I was in the USA. I was attending a Stimson Center. You must have heard about the Stimson Center. Is one of the pioneer security think tanks of America, named after the old Defense Secretary Henry Stimson. So at that time I was there. And then people started calling me and knowing my presence there. And there I could see the reporting in US press. It was one of the unique things which they were expecting on US. They had intelligence that Al-Qaeda was going to mount attack on one or two seaside or water front cities in United States. So US today, I read it when I was there, saying that the Americans considered as a dress rehearsal for a similar attack on the mainland of America, like Miami, San Francisco, New York, or whatnot, all those things. And then they went into a drive. Homeland Security had already prepared a defense plan in April of 2008. And they were keeping it ready, and they found this happening in Mumbai. So they felt that this was a dress rehearsal for a possible attack on US mainland. And then the nexus between the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Al-Qaeda had already been established by some of the American authors. There is a Professor Stephen Tankel, who is a friend of mine. He had written a wonderful book visiting the Lashkar-e-Taiba camps in Pakistan. And he is one of the world's best authorities on Lashkar-e-Taiba. And he had proved the nexus between LET and then the Al-Qaeda. So that is how it is. Now the features of 26/11 which were very unique. Number one was, this is the first urban terror attack in which live control was held by a foreign group. And they were directing the terrorists in Mumbai through mobile networks. This has never happened anywhere. This is revealed by Raymond Kelly. Now, USA, when the 26/11 took place, they were so alarmed that within a matter of 26/11, by 9th of December, the Department of Homeland Security held a hearing, and then the New York Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly was examined. And he gave all this, he saw it. And even that, before that, Mr. Mueller, who was the FBI chief, had addressed a Council on Foreign Relations about this attack and how it is significant to USA. So if this happens in the United States, if the control is in Mexico or in Canada, how would they do it? This is a new feature, totally new feature. The second important thing was deception of the mobile networks through VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. And then there is a company called Calphonics. Through them, they booked bogus cell numbers indicating the origin of Austria or Russia or any other country, Ukraine, and then gave it to these terrorists. So with the effect that when our people started tapping, they found that these numbers were all coming from different things, but actually they were in Mumbai, and then they were talking to Karachi. So this was the second thing in which the subterfuge was used for hiding the identity of the terrorists. The third feature was, for the first time, domestic visual media. At that time, Ms. Barkadat came into great criticism, but actually she was only doing her job. But that provided a lot of inputs to the Pakistan handlers. And domestic visual media of the target country, that is India, provided inputs to the terrorist handlers to recalibrate that they were sent with a particular intention. But then they started recalibrating the assault techniques. And the handler from Karachi was telling, वो ऐसा सुना है एक मिनिस्टर है ताज में उनको ढूंढ लो और उसको मारो. This type of thing was never heard. Now, so the Kelly said that in a democratic country where there is a free press, how do we control the press? How do we control the visual media? We can't do that. So this is another problem which the US handled that. And as I said, the terrorists took advantage of free media. Now, the fourth important feature was this 2611 was a trendsetter to similar attacks elsewhere in the world. That is, Fidaiin attack. Till then, as Shivanandan pointed out, from 1993, we had those improvised explosive devices. At that time, what happened is that the bombs used to go off, and the police, within a matter of some hours, the explosions are over. 2006 railway bombing also was like that. And all what the police had to do was to go, remove the injured, help the injured, preserve the scene of crime, collect evidence and prosecute. That is not the case here. The first time in Leopold Cafe, when they started shooting at the police, they knew that these are not drug gangs, these are not criminal gangs, these are terrorists. Now, this particular thing was never experienced. Of course, naturally in Kashmir, this was an experience. But elsewhere in the country, it was not. To a small extent, the parliament attack, it was there, but it was over within no time. And so this was a new thing which came. This, if you see the history, in 2011, in Norway, a mad right-wing person called Breivik, he opened fire on the immigrants and he killed 77. And in 2005, January, we had this Charlie Hebdo, that is a French satirical magazine. They were shot and by Cauchy brothers. In November 2015, the Islamic State had that massacre at 6 places in Paris, starting with Stade de France, Stadium of France, 130 deaths. Then in May 2017, there was that Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. They opened fire and 23 dead. 1,017 were injured. So this became a trendsetter all over the world. So they say this was based on the modus operandi of the 2611. That is why 2611 still interests people. That is why I was told to give lectures yesterday and today to a global audience of, as I said, So we have to, the Maharashtra government, especially Shiva, succeeded the Commissioner of Police. He introduced very good, far-reaching changes in the capability, and he has given a small account of what he has done. But in fact, he has done much more, and this was continued. Now, but even in this, certain basic things we forgot. I remember in 2010, I was invited there is an annual Asia Pacific Homeland Security Summit invited by the Governor of Hawaii. So I was asked to be the lead speaker for that function. There it's not only the U.S. Army, Air Force, and then the Marines and Navy. They take part. It's Honolulu, as you know, is the capital of the headquarters of the Pacific Fleet, which is the biggest fleet in the whole world. And so the theme was again 2611. I was asked to give a talk, and so on the second day, the war game was as an assault, an amphibious assault on the governor's house through the sea, something like exactly what happened in Mumbai. So this interests people with all these new features, and it will continue to be like that. So 2611 is very important. We have taken all the precautions, but after I finished my lecture, the host was the National Guard. As you know, National Guard in the US are under the federal control, but for the normal work, they are put under the governor. And governor uses the National Guard. And in fact, the National Guard General is the military secretary of the governor. So there is a General Ree. He asked me this question, Mr. Balachandran, why didn't Mumbai police switch off the power in both hotels and use night vision equipment to trace out 2 terrorists in Oberoi and 4 terrorists in Taj? I had to say that I'm sorry, Mumbai police didn't have night vision. So they had to wait for the national security guards. But by that time the killing was over. So when we do procure, sometimes there is a habit because of it's not because of, I was at pain to explain to them that the police in India is a civil police. They are not military police. Ours is a civil police. So our philosophy is to cause minimum damage, minimum force. So with the effect that if they are not use force, it's not their fault. On the other hand, not one Maharashtra constable ran away from the scene, even after facing the AK-47. If you see the visuals in CST, you will see that man shooting with 303 outmoded Second World War rifle against the fellow who was spraying bullets on them. But he didn't run away. Not one constable ran away. That is what, and I said that these young officers confronted, both in Taj and even in Oberoi. There was a sub-inspector who had only a pistol. He tried to shoot those terrorists, but he couldn't. Fortunately, he was not killed. So this is as far as the courage is concerned, all of them are martyrs. They stood well. They did not run away. So there are various good points of policing in 2611. Yes, unfortunately, we lost. We lost a number of people. We became the laughing stock of people. As I said, Lutuva, a friend of mine, he writes that I'm so disappointed with India. But he doesn't realize that unlike the American police, American police shoots, and then, even if the other man is unarmed, he can shoot under certain circumstances. Our police, we don't. We try to have the least amount of damage. So these are the constraints under which the police in general, they work. So the public have to understand while you take an overall view. And it is in this connection that think tanks like FINS and Professor Page will be able to contribute to the public knowledge. And I congratulate him and I thank you all for inviting me for addressing the gathering. It's been a great pleasure. I could meet some of my old friends whom I had not met because of pandemic. And I thank you wholeheartedly. Thanks a lot.